So if X signed as a co-maker and did not even receive money because the whole amount of 50,000 went to Y, and then Y died, for instance, Y died before able to pay or before January 1, then who will pay the whole amount of 50,000 pesos? X becomes liable because he is solidarily liable. No? X cannot say, hey, I did not receive a single centavo from that transaction. Since X signed as a co-maker or as a debtor by using the pronoun I, or by the presence of these words, then he is bound to pay 50,000 pesos to either C or D. So this should be or, not and. So please take note, the amount is payable at once to any creditor, except if agreed to be payable on different dates. Say, for example, X and Y promise to pay C and D jointly and severally 50,000 pesos, half on January 1 and half on June 1. So this time there are two payments on different dates, January 1 and June 1, half and half. So if X is bound to make the first payment, 25,000, then he will give it to C or to D. But if X cannot pay because he's already dead, then Y becomes liable. Why? Because the obligation is solidary. Okay. So the whole amount is payable by the debtor or collectible by the creditors, either of them. So that's the difference between joint from solidary. So let's discuss obligations according to performance or delivery. So what are these? There are two types, namely divisible or indivisible obligations. Okay. First kind is divisible obligation. These are obligations which are susceptible or which is susceptible or capable of partial performance or delivery, or its performance can be measured by number of days or metric units. Example number 1. Dan promised to pay his loan to Ina of 20,000 pesos in 4 monthly installments, starting January to April 20AA. Could be any year. So here, the object is 20,000 pesos. The debtor is Dan, and the creditor is Ina. Question, is it susceptible or capable of partial performance? The answer is yes. In how many installments? 4 monthly installments, and starting from January to April. Another example. Watts obliged to build WEP a 200 square meter bungalow in 1 year for 2 million pesos. So meaning Watts will be paid 2 million pesos by WEP if he is able to complete 200 square meter bungalow in 1 year. Is this divisible? Yes, because the performance can be measured by number of days, which is 1 year. Or it could be number of months or number of weeks and so on and so forth. So this is divisible obligation. Now in divisible obligation, if there is a stipulation or there is an obligation which is illegal or impossible, it can be taken off from the obligation because it's divisible. We can divide it. Okay. Say for example, if Dan promised to pay his loan of 20,000 plus deliver 1 kilo shabu every month to Ina, so the whole obligation is not void. His obligation to deliver 20,000 pesos is still valid. What is void is the delivery of the shabu. Why? Because it is a divisible obligation. Second type of obligation according to performance of delivery is indivisible obligation. Here, this obligation is not susceptible or capable of partial performance. Example number 1, Dan promised to pay his loan to Ina of 20,000 pesos on February 10. So this time, the loan or the amount, 20,000 pesos, is payable only one time, February 10. So this makes the intention of the parties here is one-time payment and makes the obligation indivisible. Another example, Watts obliged to give Webb a car, which is FJ Cruiser with plate number LM25. Of course, by the nature of the object, it cannot be divided. So the car must be delivered one time. Watts cannot deliver first the wheels, then the engine, then next the body, then the windows, and so on. It cannot be done like that. It should be delivered, the car should be delivered at once, only at one time. Excuse me. So we have also obligations which are in according to sanctions for breach. So again, what is breach? Breach is any violation or a violation to the terms or conditions of the agreement or contract. So an obligation may come with a penal clause. So that is what you call an obligation with a penal clause. So what's a penal clause? It is an accessory contract which provides for a penalty in case of non-performance or non-delivery of the thing promised without just cause. Example, Dan promised to pay his loan to Ina of 20,000 pesos on February 10. In case of failure to pay, Dan shall be liable to Ina an additional 500 pesos per day of delay reckoned from February 10. So this is the penalty of 500 pesos per day is the penal clause. And this contract is an accessory contract to the principal contract of delivering 20,000 pesos. So in sum, there are two contracts in this type of example. The first, or the principal contract, the delivery of the 20,000 pesos to Ina. And in case he cannot deliver, the accessory contract, which is the penalty of 500 pesos per day. So in this case, the penal clause serves to replace the provision for paying interest. In some cases, the clause may replace the delivery of the fruits, which could either be civil, industrial, or natural. So question, say for example, Dan was already delayed for 40 days. So he was not able to pay the 20,000 peso amount to Ina for a delay of 40 days. 40 kaadlaw. So if you multiply 40 days times 500 pesos, that would give you 20,000 pesos. So Dan made a payment of 20,000 pesos after making a delay of 40 days. So he was able to pay 20,000 pesos only as a penalty, the penalty. Now Dan says that I already paid 20,000 pesos as penalty. Since that is the same amount as the principal, the same as the principal amount, 20,000 pesos. So I am no longer liable to pay Ina. Now, is he correct? Is Dan correct to say that he is no longer liable to pay 20,000 pesos, or he has already paid Ina 20,000 pesos, or his principal contract? The answer is no. No? Payment of the penalty or the penal clause does not carry with it the principal contract. Okay? So if ever Ina will issue a receipt of 20,000 pesos as penalty, the rule says that it does not extinguish the principal contract. Okay? So what if after 40 days, Don paid 20,000 pesos, but this time Ina made a receipt saying payment of the principal contract 20,000 pesos, and she totally forgot of the penalty. What is the effect by that issuance of the receipt of Ina? The effect is that the obligation of Don is already extinguished or terminated. There's no obligation to speak of. Why? Because the receipt issued by Ina states that payment of principal loan. Okay, the rule says that payment of principal loan extinguishes the accessory contract. Okay, so do not forget those rules. First, payment of the principal contract extinguishes or carries with it the accessory contract. The second rule, extinguishment of the accessory contract does not carries with it the principal contract. I hope you got that one, or those two principles. Now let's proceed to the last topic, which is obligation without a penal clause, this time simply without an agreement of penalty in case of delay. So there is no penalty to speak of. So penalty is a word taken from the word penal. So penalty is a word taken from the penalty. No, penal is a word taken from penalty. Sorry for that confusion. So that ends our topic. If you have any questions or clarifications, just email me at macerenlaw@gmail.com or my Facebook account, Attorney Lyndon Mac. I hope you learned something in this discussion today, and thank you for listening. Have a good day.